To the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. As always, I'm your host from Tampa, Florida, Sal Guardo. With me, as always, is Kyle Searle, aka the Sledge, former defensive lineman, former director of football operations, Dan Cobb, and unfortunately, our Hall of Fame quarterback has a conflict. It may come to surprise some listeners, but some of us in the podcast do have second jobs. He has a work conflict he has to attend to. However, you could always find us on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast, and we are available anywhere podcasts are available. Please give us a 5-star review and a subscribe and a like. And of course, we are on YouTube Live. Get in there, get in the chat, and let's get going, boys. A few things we need to recap. Definitely the Michigan State game. And even though the Penguins fell short, boys, I have to tell you, I have never been more excited for Youngstown State football team after a loss like I am after this Michigan State game. And of course, we are at Townsend. We'll get you ready for Townsend and let you know about how the rest of the conference is looking. One thing that we definitely want to get out is I believe it was Kurt Hess that sent this to us earlier today. Very cool. We had a Shark Tank guest on the show, Damon. Damon, as you guys know, he invented FUBU. He is one of the regulars that's always on Shark Tank. He was on campus and spoke to the Youngstown State students. That is really cool, in my opinion. But let's get into it, boys. Real quick before we get into it, if you guys don't mind, Searle, just Dan, quick thoughts before we dive into the detail. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, so I mean, just from watching it, the eye test, right? Like, you're not looking at the statistics. Like, you're just watching the game as like a casual sports fan. You know, it's encouraging. Like you said, you're not like, how have you ever walked away from a loss like encouraged about like what we can do the rest of the season? And it was to the point to where a couple of my kids that I coached in 7th grade, they didn't know I played at Youngstown State. And so one walks up to me, he's like, on Monday, he's like, "Hey, coach, you watched that game?" And I was like, "Well, what game are you talking about? Because there's like 100 on every weekend." He's like, "The Youngstown State game." I was like, "Yeah, I watched it." He's like, "I did too." And I said, "What'd you think?" He's like, "I think they looked pretty good in the first half." So, I mean, you know, like, and that's coming from like a 12-year-old that doesn't really know the ins and outs of football. Sure. He just was like, "Hey, like, they looked pretty good."
Dan, initial thoughts before we dive into it.
Well, same thing. I mean, I thought that physically we were in the game, the whole game. You know, it wasn't like it was a, track meet. You see some of these other games where FCF schools go play a Big Ten or SEC, and it's not really close. And we were there, and we were right in it. And it obviously shows to our strength program, and I think the recruiting that we were in this football game from the jump. So it was fun to watch.
You hit it on the head. Strength program. For the first time in these money games, I felt like we were not outrageously undersized. Usually you could say, all right, that's a Power 5 school, and we are an FCS school. That was not the case. I thought we lined up size-wise well. Well, anyway, to break down the game, it was 41-24. The game was much closer than the score looked. We went down the field, opening drive. I mean, we pulled out some trick plays. I thought we were going to score a touchdown. Unfortunately, we settled for a field goal. Michigan State responds with a touchdown to end the quarter. Second quarter, they get the ball back and they score another touchdown, 14-3. And right when you think they're running away with it, no, sir. Youngstown State with some big plays. They have a 4-play, 65-yard play that ends up with a Gilbert 1-yard touchdown to make it 14-10. A field goal by Michigan State to round out the half, 17-10 at halftime. And just, I got to share, because it was 28.5 when we picked this show. When the game kicked off, it was 23.5 was the line. So the line moved down drastically, and it was only 7 points at halftime. So if there was a first half line, that would have been awesome. Third quarter, Michigan State scores a touchdown, followed by another touchdown. That's when you think it starts to get ugly, as it's 31-10. Then we come back, score a touchdown of an 8-play, 80-yard drive in 5 minutes. They'll end with a Brungard 3-yard run touchdown, 31-17. Things are cooking. Michigan State held to a field goal. We respond with another touchdown, 34-24. And that could have been the final, but let me tell you, hats off to the staff. They were going to come in to win the game. Like, they didn't come in to take the check and go home. Doug Phillips decides he's going onside kick because he wants to win the game. So hats off to him. Unfortunately, we do not get the onside kick, and that's where this touchdown misleads the score to look 41-24 Youngstown State. Again, incredible effort by our boys. Love to see it. But let's actually get into the weeds of things now. Cyril, what do you think about our defensive play?
Defensively, I would have liked to have seen look, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this because it's walking away from a game like this, it's encouraging. And I'm not going to say our guys didn't play hard. I think where we got beat was on special teams. There's a big punt return that swayed momentum and led to a quick score for Michigan State. I gave some guys shout outs from the Robert Morris game, Michael Wells, and, he had 5 tackles on the day, but, some of our other guys, our interior guys, not much on the stat chart. And stats don't always indicate playing well or not playing well, right? Like if they can blow a guy up and the linebacker follows and, but you would just like to see those guys on the stats a little bit more in a game like this. Our big time players need to show up in big games like this. We lost the total yardage battle 444 to 339. And, we only had one less play than them. So, that would be typical what you would expect going up against a Big Ten team, right? Or you should expect it from a Big Ten team. Our red zone defense, we held them to 2 field goals in the red zone, but they scored all 5 times in the red zone. So, we got to be able to figure out how do we get some turnovers or something cooking in the red zone to keep some guys off the board, especially against a team like that when you're overmatched in terms of roster depth, right? So their 2s come in, they should be better than or just as good as our 1s. And, when our 2s go in, that's not always the case. And so you would like to see ways that points don't get scored in the red zone. And yes, that's super cliche, but, that could very well be the difference in the game. So a big punt return and red zone points. So
to your point, I think I text you all at the end of the game that special teams was a 10-point swing. As you mentioned, they had that punt return that might as well have been a touchdown. I think we tripped them up at the 5-yard line. So that's 7 points. Then we missed a very makeable field goal. That's 3 more points. As I mentioned, it was 34-24 when we did that onside kick. You take those 10 points away, it could very much be, someone do the math for me, 27-27, and we don't have to do that onside kick. But DK, you're stepping in for Kurt Hess. You could still give us your overall opinion, but offensive play, what'd you think, man?
Yeah, I got to obviously because we missed Kurt tonight, but I think you got to start with quarterback play. And I thought Bo, obviously, they game plan to keep Bo, so to speak, in a pocket. They didn't want him out there running, making explosive plays with his feet. But he made some really accurate throws. I thought he was clean in those decisions. The interception, I asked Kurt, I don't know if he was expecting our guy to break the route off, and he threw it. If he throws it a little more air, it could have been a touchdown. But, Bo played well. I will continue to say our running back depth is incredible. We have running backs by the boatload, and there's a couple of guys that didn't even play. So, I think that's encouraging. I thought our tight ends were involved, probably the most that I've seen our tight ends involved in a while, and they looked good catching the ball, getting yards after the catch. Max Tomczak continues to impress us all. Thought he was, he looked like a guy that, might have been able to be on their roster. And then, I thought that opening series, some of the calls that, Coach Ursich was making with split back sets and utilizing a little bit of a reverse play and just doing some things where we were able to look comfortable on offense, that we didn't go 3 and out, right? We talked about we can't just go 3 and out. We've got to have, positive yards on first down. And I think we had a lot of that. So it was fun to watch the offense. And there were some times where they, stalled a little bit, but I like what Kyle said from our perspective offensively. We were getting movement for the most part on their defensive line. We were able to run the ball. That 91 that they had, their D linemen, is what you would think a Big Ten interior guy should be. So, I think our grade offensively is pretty good. Obviously, you got to score touchdowns in those games, kicking field goals. Like you said, Sal's not going to, win those games. But I heard Coach Phillips on his show tonight talk about, he told the team that they weren't happy with this and they know they got to grow, but he was proud of proud of their effort, and I think you guys alluded to that. We were all texting each other after the game like, man, it's a proud day to be a Penguin. We didn't win. We wanted to win. Sal, you said it, the coaches, we were well prepared. We were a team that was prepared to play that game, but we were proud of the effort and the fact that like you said, Sal, that touchdown was one of those, oh, by the wayers at the end of the game. So it was a 10-point game, and a play here, a play there. We did leave some points out there. So,
yeah, like you said, Bo Brungard, he looked like a big boy quarterback. He was making big time throws. Like he looked like he belonged in the Big Ten.
He looked very calm. The whole game,
collective.
very calm.
Well, I think Kurt would attest. Yeah, I think Kurt would say that. Here's a guy who's now, second year of being the starting quarterback. He's a coach's kid. His dad's a legend at Youngstown State. His brothers are football players. This guy's from this. Bo Brungard is starting to really. It's fun watching that kid. I mean, he can flat out play, and good Lord willing, he just keeps getting better and better. We got ourselves a good quarterback and a lot of good people around him. I can't say enough about Max. I know that one slant he caught. He took a heck of a shot on that and bounced up. And so, man, it's hard to knock anything offensively other than we'd love to score a touchdown. I thought Flash Wilson, man, he's an explosive dude. We got to get him the ball some more. So, and I'm missing names, but we're going to be just fine offensively.
And as I think I texted the thread after the game too, my hat's off to his coaching staff, because like we all discussed, they had them boys ready to play. They weren't scared, and they played to win the game. They weren't playing just to have a conservative score and go home with a check. We wanted to win the game. We're very fortunate we have a staff as we do. And one thing I do want to point out, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, off the top of my head, I think in the last, let's say, nearly 20 years, we had 4 prior offensive coordinators, from Brian Wright to Shane Montgomery to Brian Chris to Coach Troy. And all 4 of them, anytime they were in these money games, understandably, they always went east and west to get around the line of scrimmage, because the defensive linemen were always twice the size of our offensive linemen. I understand. We did not do that against Michigan State. We punched them straight, like in the face. We went down the A gaps or the B gap. We were not scared. And our offensive line, I don't want to say they took control, but they were not scared of that Michigan State defensive line. We sized up. And the same on the flip-flop on the defensive line for the Penguins. They really held their own and stopped the run very well, where usually in these games, they could run through us. All we're trying to do is ankle bite. That was not the case against Michigan State. Love to see it. Score predictions. Searle, you were 24-30 is pretty close. Kurt, I think, had the closest at 35-21. Do want to point out in the live chat, Gentleman Swag, he had the 41-28. That was also pretty close. So hats off there. And I do want to point out in the comments, Wolf actually did make a score prediction in the comments of Robert Morris. he was darn close too. I think he said it was like 55-21.
He was only
Robert
like
Morris.
2 or 3 points off of that.
Yeah, he was. I didn't see that comment till later. Hats off to him. That was great. But
yeah, real quick, Sal, you brought up a good point about the coaching staff and all of our staffs in those big games like that. There is no doubt Coach Phillips and his group on both sides of the ball, the Big Ten Network guys spoke about both our coordinators. They actually showed pictures of Coach Yursich and Coach Handline and spoke about him. And
what was that with Handline? You looked like he was at a brewery or something. And said,
he was
at the Ted Lasso pub, Sal.
Yeah,
with the program.
I had it on mute. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, you had it on mute.
And but so yeah, I mean, we were schematically, if that's the right word, prepared and doing things offensively. That first drive, guys, if you can remember, it was kind of like, wow, look at these sets, look at these things that. And I will say this: I think it was the last touchdown pass to Dandridge, right? I believe who it was, to Dandridge, our last, if I'm saying that right. You watched their middle linebacker had to spy Bo, obviously, and Bo took the 3-step drop or out of gun, took the drop, and was able to complete that pass because normally, and Kyle, you probably speak to this better, the linebacker's dropping into that slot. He had to spy Bo. So our quarterback now forces them that they can't just drop everybody. You gotta spy number 12. And I thought it showed on that last touchdown pass where they couldn't just like bring a blitz or, leave Bo unaccounted for. So, and I think that goes to the schemes we're doing. And in a lot of those games, when we beat Pitt up in 2012, from Coach Wolford to Coach Montgomery, the scheme, we were obviously Kyle was playing that night, and that team, was the better team that night. We beat Pitt. We were better, but Coach Cochran, had our team physically ready. So you brought up some good points, and the game has changed. In 2008, when we were playing the Pitts or whoever, there was no portal. There was no, there wasn't, we weren't able to pick guys up like this. So it's changed, but you brought up a really good point. You were the first to text us after the game that we looked prepared. So.
Yeah. One more thing on the offense is to the offensive coordinator, useless. He was calling plays to set up plays in the future. Like he wasn't just calling to win the down. Like he had a script lined up that, hey, I'm going to get the defense to think we're going here so he can line up down the road, 4 plays down the road. I'm going to run going the other way. You could just tell. And I haven't seen that from Youngstown State, in my opinion, since Shane Montgomery was the offensive coordinator. He was really setting up plays that were very, very well prepared. The trick play. If you got to prepare for Youngstown State now, you have a hell of a. I hope your scout offense is ready to run out all the trick plays that we pulled out that are on film available now, because it's going to be hard to try to memorize all the plays we've been running.
You keep saying trick plays, but I just don't think that they're necessarily trick plays. It's not like we're running reverses and double passes. Like
we were running double passes. We had one direct snap to the running back that was reversed back to the quarterback.
We're just executing our blocking assignments. It's just like, it's not like we only move the ball on a direct snap or a double pass or a reverse. Like you said, we lined up and we ran it at them. So it's like our guys are executing at a level that we haven't seen consistently in the past.
I'm not saying the trick plays move the ball down the field. All I'm saying is we ran some trick plays, and now you have to prepare for them if you play Youngstown State next week or the following week.
Yeah, I think to our point that we're trying to make, all of us are, is that we are kind of seeing, number one, and this is at every level, and anybody could say this, it's not rocket science. This is a quarterback-driven game, okay? More so maybe than it ever has. Well, we've got a guy like Bo Brungard. He was one of the best athletes on the field in a Big Ten football game, right? I'm not trying to say he was the best, but it wasn't like, yeah. And like you said, he looked calm. He was calm. And we're putting together, I think we're stacking plays and building an offensive scheme that it will be hard to prepare for, because you got to account for number 12. And again, there's 10 other guys on that field, to Kyle's point. our offensive line was doing. We look good, guys. I mean, I don't want to keep going on this, but we're getting better, and we got to keep getting better, as Coach Phillips said after the game. We got a long way to go. So,
anything in the chat, Cyril, worth mentioning before we move on from Michigan State?
No, not yet.
Okay, we ready to move on? Let's do it. For the rest of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, just so you know, there was a tie in our polls last week. Dan and Kurt tied. Cyril, you and I finished one behind them. Cyril was the only one that actually picked correct in the FBS game, as Ohio did not let Ohio State cover the points, but USF, Central Michigan, and Boston College were short. Friday night, Indiana State at Indiana. Indiana, to say lightly, they definitely won and cover 73-0. I don't know if they did a running clock or what, but the fourth quarter went very quick. Then moving on to Saturday, Northern Colorado at South Dakota. South Dakota did win and covered in overtime is what it took for them to cover, 24-17. North Dakota at Montana. Montana won and covered at 24-23. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, they won and covered. I believe North Dakota was the favorite by 2 points, which is pretty astonishing that it was a 1 point game. Illinois State at Eastern Illinois. Illinois State wins but does not cover, 42-30. Youngstown State, as we went in depth, at Michigan State, 41-24. Michigan State wins but cannot cover. SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, went all the way to Fargo to take on the Bison. The Bison win 41-14, but they cannot cover the points. Eastern Washington at the Unidome of Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa wins on a field goal, and that's not enough to cover the points. 17-14 UNI. Murray State at Georgia State. How about this? Murray State putting up 3 touchdowns at Georgia State. Georgia State, of course, wins but cannot cover, 37-21. Southern Illinois Salukis at UT Martin. Salukis win and cover on the road, 37-10. And lastly, the Drake, gotta love the Drake, is at the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. The Drake puts up 3 touchdowns. They cannot win, but they cover the points. Jackrabbits win the game, 37-21. Hats off to the Drake. Quick thoughts, just thoughts around the league. What do you guys think overall? Any comments to make about Missouri Valley?
Only thing I'll say, and it's only one thing I'll say, is obviously North Dakota looks like they might be for real. So that's all I got.
Cyril?
I don't know. Like, this is just, it's a weird week. Like, NDSU scoring 40-plus points again, not covering, but I mean, their spreads are so ridiculous. Like, you have Northern Iowa winning a close one, so they could be a gritty team in the Missouri Valley. So typical from them. South Dakota State's probably got playing a lot of backups and 2s and 3s in that game against Drake. I didn't check the box score of how the points unfolded, if those are late points from Drake. But, for Drake scoring 21 at South Dakota State, that's not an easy place to score points. So, I mean, give it up to them. So, I don't know. It's just, I think we'll find out more after the first 2 weeks of the Missouri Valley Conference plays.
And to your point, a very good cross game that we could reference. After our game this week, we have a bye week before we welcome South Dakota State to Youngstown. Do you guys know who South Dakota State plays during our bye week?
They play
You're on it.
I'm on it.
It sounds like you know the answer.
I looked at it. I think that they play is it Robert Morris? Don't they play Robert Morris?
Close. Mercyhurst. They play Mercyhurst. Okay. And Mercyhurst, I don't, so that'll be a good way to compare. Hey, is Mercyhurst as good as we think that we struggled with them, or we'll see? Because Mercyhurst did kind of go toe-to-toe with Sacramento State for a few quarters there before Sacramento State pulled away. Very interesting, but I agree with you guys. Dan, North Dakota, again, if there was a power ranking, I think they're the second best team in the conference. I think, again, it's a little too early, but based on what I've seen, Youngstown State could be the third best team in this conference. I'm very impressed with how we're looking thus far. Very long season ahead of us, though. But one last thing I just want to note is Missouri State played host to SMU. Very interesting. SMU went to Missouri State. It was close for a while. It was 14-10 at halftime, and then SMU, the Pony Express, pulls a couple touchdowns and make it 28-10. Just to update our rankings, of course, number 1, number 2, North Dakota State, and number 2, South Dakota State in that order. Illinois State, number 4, still sitting in there. Number 11, Southern Ill. That's something else I want to mention. I think Southern Ill might be for real. They may not be as overrated as I initially thought. North Dakota, 17, which is, I would think they'd be a little higher than that. South Dakota, 21, and your Youngstown State Penguins move up one spot despite losing to number 24. Any thoughts around the room on the latest rankings before we move on?
Yeah, I think South Dakota's ranked way too high, and this is coming from someone that's been on, not the bandwagon, but just has defended, South Dakota in this podcast because Sal says they stink. I think that they are ranked too high right now. I don't, they're not putting up the scores that they did last year. They're, so them sitting at 21. I mean, I would swap us. I would give us 21 and give them 24. And so
agreed. And maybe swap North Dakota and Southern Illinois.
Southern
I'm
Illinois
impressed with them.
Let me check Southern Illinois' schedule. I don't know why, because they came in. What were they preseason ranked? I forget. They were high.
They started like 14. They moved up a couple of spots, but I think they're legit. But
yeah. Okay.
But don't you guys think
they lost to Purdue by 17? So they probably covered that spread, and then they whomped Thomas More 49-3. And then UT Martin 37-10. So that offense is legit and can score points. So,
but don't you think at this point, after 3 weeks, that the rankings are kind of skewed? I mean, all of us have maybe played a Power 5 school, and the rankings are based off last year. I mean, come on. And I don't know. I don't know if they're all real gauges. Obviously, we weren't anywhere in the top 25, right?
Well,
and now we've played.
I still think UC Davis in the top 10 they should be sitting here at 1 and 2, and they're lucky that they're 1 and 1, sitting at number 9, because they were 100% going to lose that game. I think against Mercer,
number 25.
The first game of the season, who's sitting at 25 at 1 and 1. So if Mercer were to go on and win that game, and they're sitting at 2 and 1, and UC Davis is 1 and 2. There's no way that you can have Mercer at 25 and UC Davis at 9 when at head-to-head battle, Mercer came out on top. So the like Coach Kyle said, these rankings are skewed right now. You can't really you can comment on them, but it doesn't really matter, because the only ranking that matters is, towards the back end of the season, when there's 75-80% of the season has been played, and you have a little bit of just to say North Dakota State just played Southeast Missouri. Well, they're going to Southern Illinois next. So now we'll be able to see how Southern Ill scores and fares against SEMO versus NDSU.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, our conference, the best conference at the FCS level, is going to tear through these rankings because we're going to start playing each other. So, but you guys know how I feel about rankings and predictions.
Hey, shout out to Brian Wright, sitting at number 19 right now.
I watched that game. I was texting.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. I watched that game. It was a heck of a game. And now that place is called Eccles Coliseum. Sal, you remember when we went out there in 2008? That place was a a pit. So I was happy for Coach Wright to exercise some demons and get that win. And went for two. He went for two to win the game, and they got it. And then they got a safety. There was a holding call in the end zone. I think that's how. And ended up 52-49. I texted Coach Wright, and then he texted me back at like 1:30 in the morning. I was asleep.
Going to say the game was like midnight. One thing with the newborn is I am awake for all these like your boys at USC are hosting Michigan State at 11
o'clock.
I will be up for that whole game. So,
for sure.
Anyway, all right, guys, you guys want to move on? Let's do it. This Saturday, September 20th, 6 p.m. night game. Your Youngstown State Penguins are on the road at the Towson Tigers near Baltimore, Maryland at the Tigers Johnny Unitas Stadium. As I was texting you guys, I know exactly where Towson is based on Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld when she wouldn't take the Baltimore O's cap off episode. Was fantastic. Anyway, we are going to be the only ones not playing on ESPN Plus this weekend because we are back on the CAA conference, which is on Flow Sports. Therefore, you guys would have to download the app. You could only download it at a monthly subscription at $19.99. As Cyril mentioned, I believe last year when we're talking about Villanova, $19.99. That's the cost of a ticket. No reason why you can't just get it if you want to watch the team. Please definitely subscribe and do not forget to cancel your Flow Sports subscription if you want to watch the Penguins this weekend. But it's going to be beautiful weather there. It's going to be in the high 60s at kickoff. It's going to sunset at 7:15, which is going to be around halftime. It's going to be beautiful. So how has Towson looked like throughout the season? Of the three games, first they opened up at Norfolk State. They won 27-7. I do want to know, because as the score looks pretty drastic, it was actually 13-7 in the fourth quarter. As you guys know, who was debuted their coaching career at Norfolk State that weekend?
Michael Vick.
Yeah, it's Vick.
You gotta know it's the only Virginia Tech Youngstown State podcast. Correct. Morgan State is who they played, and with less than, I can't remember how many, like 28 seconds on the clock, is when they threw an 18-yard touchdown pass to take the lead to win the game 27-22. So they were behind at Morgan State, came back and won. And then at Maryland, it was very uncompetitive as Maryland jumped up early. I believe it was 34-0 when they called the dogs off, and that's when they being Towson was able to pick up 17 points in garbage time to make it 44-17. Now they host Youngstown State. Just some fun facts about Towson. Youngstown State and Towson have actually played 4 times. Youngstown State owns all 4 games as we are 4-0. We played them 4 years in a row from 1988. First time we played them 3 weeks before I was born, giving my age away. And we won that game. I believe, let me look it up for you. We won that game in Youngstown, 41-39, very close. The very next year, also in Youngstown, we blew them out 38-7. Then we went to Towson for the first time and shut them out 13-0. Then in 1991, we went back to Towson and won 27-17. Take that, please, with a grain of salt, as that was the Jim Tressel era. You cannot take the Jim Tressel Youngstown State era as reality today, as we all know. The football stadium, Johnny Unitas. Why is it called Johnny Unitas Stadium? Well, the former Baltimore Colts legendary quarterback, he actually sent 3 of his children to Towson while they were attending. The university appointed Johnny Unitas to help them find a corporate sponsor so that they could rename the stadium, renovate it, make it legit. And as he was named to head this up, just a few weeks later, Johnny Unitas passed away. That's when his wife said, hey, in his honor, let's name this thing Johnny Unitas Stadium. It is an artificial turf stadium, capacity 11,000. Just so you guys know, their one home game this year, they had 8,400, nearly a sellout. In comparison, it was 11,000. Just for reference, on a bad day, we put 12,000 in our facility. But it's still, I guess it will probably appear as a big crowd. Uh, Again, they're in the CAA conference. They've been there since 2007. They were actually their last FCS. I'm sorry, I had a little typo here. They were in the FCS championship game in 2013, lost to no other than North Dakota State, 35-7. But they were there in recent memory. Their last playoff appearance was in 2018, where they lost to no other than Duquesne in the first round. Their coach going into his third season, Pete Shinnick. Um, Pete Shinnick, just some stats about him. He's coming from the Division II level. He won the national championship with the University of West Florida in 2019. So he definitely dominated the Division II level. That's why they brought him up. He's 14-12 so far at Townsend. The Tigers went 7-5 last year. They have an enrollment of 22,000. Not a very small school. Just a few notable alumni. That's my new thing I like to note. Comedian Amy Schumer, love her or hate her. She is a Townsend Tiger. Mike Rowe from the Discovery Channel. He has a show called Dirty Jobs, is what he's known for today. And then probably most notable is Maryland's head coach Mike Locksley is a Townsend Tiger. His son, and famously his late son, was at Youngstown State. So I don't know if you call this the Locksley Bowl, but he was at Youngstown State and played quarterback for a spring semester with us. I think we all remember him for the famous play where he lined up under the guard that if you listen to our Shane Montgomery episode when we had him on, he relived it. Definitely a memorable moment. But yeah, Mike
And
Locksley,
Torian, our running back at the time, who could see the center lined up behind him.
he's an FBI agent now.
Don't get me started on that.
So Mike Locksley, who they just played, who laid it on them, is actually an alum of the Townsend Tigers. Again, outside of the Baltimore area is where they are located. But Kyle Searle, what do you think about their defense? And give me a score prediction if you may.
So, Gentleman Swag says, hey, like when I think of Towson, I think of Terrence West, who was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. So I couldn't remember his name. He dropped it there. But when I think of Towson, that's the only time like I can make a connection to him. They're in the same conference as Villanova. They have had some playoff runs. I don't think recently, but they have had some good playoff runs in recent history. You know, 3 out of their top 4 tacklers are linebackers. So, but you know, the one guy, CJ McClendon, you know, he leads the team in TFLs. He's got 3.5 for 17 yards, and it's only through 3 games. But you know what I'm confused about is he's the same size as the corner that's out on the edge, and Jason Shiggs, who is the team leading tackler. But I think the guy that's going to be the biggest problem is Rodney Roan Jr. He's number 11. He's 6'2", 225, right behind McClendon and TFLs. Has 2 sacks, so he's the current season leader in sacks. But ultimately, like statistically, nothing jumps off the page that says, "Hey, this team or this guy is a world beater," right? So I think what Towson has is they have a lot of guys in the same neck of the woods in tackles, right? So you got a couple guys in the 20s, a lot of guys in the high to mid teens. So what that tells me is they play pretty well together as a defense. And that's from me not watching any film, not watching them play. And let me just tell you, don't take this as solicited advice, but I did get the Flow Sports app last year. It sucks. Okay. It's garbage. the CAA is terrible for signing up for Flow Sports. Okay, it's garbage. They make you jump through hoops to cancel it, and it's just whatever. Okay, I'm not getting it again this year to watch them play. Anyways, I think that we can absolutely handle this game from start to finish. I would expect us to score somewhere in the neck of 34 points. And not looking at their offensive stats, I would say give me a score of 34 to what's our spread here on the thing? YSU minus 3.5. So I'll totally take those points because I think 34-17 is realistic.
And to your point, the CAA, we'll see what happens this offseason, but there's a lot of people departing, Villanova being one of them, as you mentioned. I think maybe Richmond, there's like 4 schools departing. Maybe it's the Flow Sports reason. I don't know. But Flow Sports looks like a high school level subscription. Once you apply, it's all but a lot of high school football.
Is Rhode Island in that conference?
It makes sense for them to be,
because they're sitting at number 6. They're sitting at number 6, so that's probably the team to beat. Villanova's sitting at 12. I don't see Towson, and we played Villanova really tough.
Yes, they are. They are in the conference.
Oh, okay.
Outside of the playoff game, we played Villanova tough last season when we weren't very good. So yeah, man, I think we're just gonna. If we play the way that we played against Michigan State, now, yes, it is a different team. We're on the road. We were on the road at Michigan State, but I think 34-17, start to finish. I think Towson scores some garbage points in the end to make it closer than in reality than it was.
So just so you know, it's I'll rattle these off real quick. Rhode Island, North Carolina A&T, William and Mary, Bryant, Elon, Monmouth, New Hampshire, Townsend, Villanova, UAlbany, Hampton, Stony Brook, Campbell, Maine are all in the CAA that you have to have the app to be able to watch them. Something you said I want to comment on. I can't remember now.
Well, let me say one more thing.
Go ahead.
Their fourth leading tackler, Miles Turner, okay? He's 6'1", 235. First season with Towson. Last season, he was with Shane Montgomery and UMass, which UMass wasn't great last year, so I'm not.
Yeah, Shane to take over as interim head coach as they cleared house over there. But Dan, what do you think, man?
Well, offensively, it's interesting to when you read about them, and I did watch a little bit of the Maryland game, and Maryland were just flat out better, and Mike Locksley was trying to score points, and they did. Their quarterback situation's interesting. They're starting a freshman, Andrew Andorf. He's out of St. Thomas Aquinas over there in Lauderdale, a national program. He was like a player of the year there, won a state title. But in 24, their quarterback was Sean Brown, who started 9 games last year. The year before, who is now their backup quarterback, Nathan Kent, started all 11 games. So it looks like this freshman came in and beat them both out. And the quarterback last year looks to be QB3 for them. He hasn't played yet this year. So it's interesting. Obviously, this quarterback's probably a little bit of a baller from St. Thomas Aquinas. He's seen great competition coming out of high school in that area. He's completing 60% of his passes. He's only thrown the ball 74 times, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's not a runner, obviously. He wants to throw the ball. They're rushing about 80 yards a game. They're averaging 24 points per game. Obviously, they scored the majority of those points in their first 2 games. They've got 4 receivers with some decent averages. This Dunmore is their best receiver. A kid named Lucas Londano, I think is the pronunciation. He's their kick returner, too. He's about 32 yards a clip on kickoff return. So we're going to have to be good after we score touchdowns. Doss and Perkins are the other 2 receivers. They were 7-5 last year. I think you mentioned that, Sal. They rushed for about 165 yards a game last year, threw for 215, but that was with looks to be their third string quarterback now, Sean Brown, who's a graduate transfer from Liberty. And the backup quarterback, this Nathan Kent, is from Liberty High School in the area there by Towson. So they got a freshman quarterback. Again, I can't say enough out of St. Thomas Aquinas in Lauderdale. So he's been in big games. And I mean, heck, some of those kids they have at Aquinas are going to the U and to Florida and all kinds of Division I places. So, I would think that they're going to probably try and do a little bit of both. I mean, this coach, Shinnick, I'm sorry. Sal, you mentioned he's a good coach. This guy's been successful everywhere he's been. His dad, the connection here with Johnny Unitas, I read his dad played for the Baltimore Colts for like 13 years and played with Johnny Unitas. And he said he has a picture in his office of Johnny Unitas and his dad like hugging after a game. So he's obviously, there's some connections to Baltimore with that last name, Shinnick. So, I think they're going to be similar to us offensively. They're going to be coached well. Kyle nailed it. They've got some monsters inside on the D line. That's why those linebackers are making all them tackles, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
When you were playing for us, you were keeping them linemen off our linebackers. So that's what they kind of
helps. Well, like I said,
yeah.
That doesn't, just backing up to the Michigan State thing, just because you're not on the stat board doesn't necessarily mean you're not making or contributing to a play. But.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this quarterback has played 3 football games now in college, and he's probably starting to get a little bit more and more comfortable. And I think there's going to be a lot of similarities when both these teams take the field. This guy's going to want to do like we do. He might be throwing the ball a little bit more now, but they're going to try and run the ball. They're going to be fast. I mean, my best recollection of Towson is I was a student when we were in the 90s. That's my age. But when I started working for the team in 07 as their ops guy, and Sal, you might remember this picture. There was a classic picture. I hope some of our football alumni guys are listening to this, like Drew Gerber and that group, and Ron Strollo especially. There was this legendary picture of the offensive line, including Ron Strollo and Tamron Smith, at the Towson game in '91, and they were covered in mud. Their faces were covered in mud. They were in all white. It's a badass photo. I mean, we need to find that photo.
It's the wallpaper in the football office?
No, it might be on some of the wallpaper, but it was a framed picture when I went there in 07. And it was just this picture. You were like, that's football. That's YSU. That was Truss. And I mean, this picture, if we could somehow post it right now, Ron Strollo, if he's probably not watching, but Ron was in this picture. Drew Gerber, who you guys had on the show, it's just a legendary picture because YSU traveled there. They were in all white, and it must have been like a rainy game of mud bowl. It's just so. If I had a prediction, I'd say, I think our defense is good enough to hold them to 2 touchdowns. And I think we're probably going to score somewhere around 24, 27 points. So,
you basically took you hit it about that Andrew Endoff, the 18-year-old true freshman quarterback they have. He is a Floridian, and St. Thomas Aquinas is probably the most well-known football program in the state of Florida. They're always that ESPN2 game that's on, probably playing someone from California or Texas every year. He did lead them to a state championship over Lakeland High School. But I do want to point out that Andrew Endorf, pronunciation may be wrong, is their quarterback. Battles is their running back. And as you hit it, Dunmore is their leading wide receiver. He caught that winning 18-yard touchdown pass to put him by Morehead State. What do all 3 of them have in common, Dan? Do you know?
Well, I didn't catch up, but what are they, all Florida boys?
You hit it on the head.
All right. Well, where are they from? What high school?
Well, Battles is from Quincy outside of Tallahassee, and Dunmore is also from Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Who is one of them's a freshman as well? Is it Battles? I think Battles is also Battles is a freshman. They're starting running back, and then Dunmore is like a 5th-year senior, I believe, transfer. He was at Oregon State at one point of his career. But
I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sal.
The other receiver you mentioned was Doss. That's their other go-to. Well, Dunmore has more over double receptions than anybody else, but Doss, he is literally straight out of Compton. He is from Compton, California, literally. So those two guys are look to be their guys, and you cover that pretty clearly, Dan.
Well, I think this quarterback's going to probably be comfortable as a freshman playing in your fourth game. Like you just nailed it, Sal. He's going to look for Dunmore, Doss, Londano, and hopefully, again, to our staff, we're going to, hey, a year ago we had a kid, not a kid, but Bo was a redshirt freshman, but didn't play much as a true. That earlier in the year, he had moments where, so I hope, we're going to have to maybe make him a little uncomfortable, but he's a good one. You play at Aquinas, you're good.
Well, a couple things. I'm very impressed with us as we rambled on about over and over again in the first half of the show. I am not. Townsend is a traditionally proud, very good program. This year, they're not looking like it with those struggles against Michael Vick, who, I mean, maybe he's a great coach. I don't know. But if Michael Vick had them, in the fourth quarter there, and then the Moorhead State having to come back to beat those guys, I feel like Townsend should have probably whipped both those guys.
Freshman quarterback, 18-year-old, young kid,
I think we're going to smash this team. I have 31-13. I really think and I'm doing 31-13 because I think that we're not, I don't want to say call the dogs off. I think we're going to run the clock. If we choose not to, it could get even more ugly. But, sure, I wrote down all these scores, but if you want to rattle off some scores you see on the YouTube chat.
Yep. So this is a Homer show tonight, all right? So everyone is on YSU, okay? So I'm just going to read the name and the score. Everyone is on YSU. Gentleman Swag, 28-24. Swicka, 38-27. Wolf, 42-24. Mets, 27-24. Demo, 31-21.
You got Moss?
That's Demo.
Oh, of course.
Wait, what my man Moss man pick?
31-21.
That's a good one. That's spoken like a
terrible one.
That's Moss man. I'll take that all day. But I don't know, what did I say? Like 27-14, I think I said.
It's a very generic score. There's no field goals in that, Moss. There's one field goal.
Well, we missed our field goal, so he may be onto something. Anyway, let's move on to the rest of the conference and some picks if you guys are ready to go. All right, let's do it. Saturday, September 20th. North Alabama travels to Illinois State, 1 p.m. Illinois State Redbirds are favored at 11.5. I have the Redbirds, as always, to win and cover.
Give me Illinois State to cover.
I'm going to go outside the box here. Give me North Alabama.
The Drake is back. You got to love the Drake. They are, I guess, back in the state of South Dakota as they are at the South Dakota Yotes, 2 p.m. The Yotes are a 27.5 favorite, nearly 4 touchdowns, or actually it is 4 touchdowns from the cover. I picked the Drake last week, and they came through for me. I'm going Drake on the points again.
Drake coming out of Iowa. I don't think we established where they were from. Wasn't sure, so I had to look it up. Coming out of Iowa, because I was like, why are these guys back in South Dakota, right? So I think South Dakota is a little frustrated with their season. I think that if they can, they're going to get some style points, run it up. I'll take South Dakota to cover.
Give me the Drake with those points.
All right. Indiana State is at the Montana Grizz, 3 p.m. Montana 21.5. I think this is the game Montana needs to get their act right before conference play. Give me the Grizz to win and cover.
I was literally just talking about Montana. I'm so jealous that Indiana State gets to go play there because I think it is one of the most beautiful stadiums in the entire country, FBS or FCS. I think that it is just an amazing, if you haven't seen it, guys, just Google Montana Grizzly Football Stadium. It's an amazing setting. No shot Indiana State covers this.
Yeah, give me Montana winning cover.
Valparaiso at North Dakota, 4 p.m. North Dakota, minus 39.5. And I think North Dakota, as we talked earlier, is for real. Give me North Dakota winning cover.
This is not your grandpappy's Valpo that gets scored 63 points in the first half. All right, this team is a little bit better. But with that being said, give me North Dakota to cover.
Yep, give me North Dakota. Yeah, they'll cover that.
All right, as we all talked about, Youngstown State is at Towson, 6 p.m. YSU is a minus 3.5 favorite on the road coming off that Michigan State game. Searles says it's going to be 34-17, Dan 27-14, and I have 31-13. That is all picking the Penguins to win and cover. Moving on, Murray State at Jacksonville State, 7 p.m. Jacksonville State is a minus 35, and I'm sorry, that should be 35.5 favorite. Murray State, they were surprising. They put up some scores and some touchdowns against Georgia State. I don't think they could do it twice. Well, I think give me Murray State with the points.
Yeah, I mean, I think every Murray State pick I've had this year, I'll have to go back and look. I think I've lost it. I think I've been in their corner and I lost it. I think I've been on the other team and I lost it. So give me this one's tough. You know, it's a big spread. I think I'll take Jacksonville State with the points.
Give me Murray State with the points.
Yeah,
I
think Jacksonville State's
win that.
as good or worse than Georgia State. But anyway, Southern Illinois Salukis are at SEMO. Southeast Missouri State is playing host at 7 p.m. These Salukis of Southern Illinois are a minus 6.5 favorite. They'll need a touchdown to cover that, and I think they will do so. Give me the Salukis.
Yeah, Salukis.
Give me SEMO. Give me those points.
Ooh, DK. Lastly, UNI is at Utah Tech. Northern Iowa Panthers at Utah Tech, 8 p.m. UNI is a minus 4.5 favorite. Ooh, UNI really, I don't know what UNI's team is showing up, but I'm going to have to go UNI with the points.
I'll take UNI as well.
Give me UNI.
All right. And then lastly, our alt pick, TCU is favored at against SMU, who SMU, as I mentioned, struggled a little bit at Missouri State last week. I have TCU winning and covering the minus 6.5 points over SMU this weekend.
Damn it, Sal! You stole my pick.
Do it.
No,
you could do it.
Go, DK. I'll find one on the fly.
Yeah, give me some. I know it's not MACtion time yet, but I'm going in the MAC. I got Toledo at Western Michigan. Now, the line I saw on ESPN, I think, was 13.5, but the MGM app had 14. So, but give me Toledo on the road at Western Michigan.
To win and cover 13.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I got Michigan versus Nebraska. Michigan is a 1.5 point favorite. I'm going to take Nebraska, and I'm going to take the over, which is 46.5. So I'm a little parlay that. I need a bonus point. I got to get in the win column somewhere.
Tell me what the spread is again.
The spread is Michigan minus 1.5, but I'm taking Nebraska. So, and the over is 46.5, and I have the over. The over-under is 46.5.
Okay. And you're taking Nebraska, the underdog. Very interesting. All right. Kurt is not here to read off our Instagram comments, but Cyril, I know the YouTube chat's been going off tonight. Very awesome to see. Love it. That's how you know it's football season. That's how you know the Penguin Nation is pumped up about the season so far and how things played out on the Big Ten Network against Michigan State. What's going on in the chat? Is anything worth mentioning? Comments? Any questions in there?
Swicka's just picking with us here. It looks like he's got what the hell Redbirds, Drake with the points, Montana, North Dakota, YSU with the alternate line of -6.5. Murray with the points, Salukis money line, Northern Iowa -6.5, which Swicka it's -4.5, but parlay all that together, and it's probably not going to treat them well.
I did, just so y'all know, I did do a parlay, and I just did I don't care if you're the favorite or not. I just picked every team in our conference and who I thought was going to win. And the only team that I picked on the points was North Dakota State. Everything I picked was right, except North Dakota State did not cover the points, and it screwed up my 9-game parlay, which was unbelievable. But to Pokemon's point, I am looking for Switka. I am looking for a website that y'all can play along with us, that we can all submit our picks and see our followers and fans and any YSU supporters see how y'all pick the rest of the conference with our spreads against us. I'm sure a lot of you guys, especially Mets, could probably beat us, so that would be fun to watch. Anyway,
Mets, you nerd.
Dan, shout outs to any Penguins.
Well, yeah, I got a cool shout out. I was telling you guys about this before we went on air. So last night I got to play in the Carm Strong Bocce tournament down the MVR. We all love the MVR. We all love Carm. We miss them. But so I'm playing in the tournament with a couple of former YSU guys, and we're playing against the team, and they're beating us, which is never easy. But the captain of their team comes over to me and he's like, "Hey, are you on a podcast?" And I'm like, man, someone put him up to this? I'm like, yeah. He's like, "You're on that Youngstown State podcast." I'm like, yeah. He's like, "My son, he loves your podcast. He's a huge YSU fan." I said, and he was playing in the tournament with his dad. He was one of their hitters, and he's a good player. And I'm like, oh man, we got to talk to him. So I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh, I love the show. Love the Penguins. I'm a huge football fan, huge basketball fan of YSU. I want to do something with YSU marketing, sports management." I said, well, he's a Boardman High School guy, so proud Boardman guy like myself. His name is Chase, and it's Zelisnak. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, Chase. But great dude, loves YSU. I told him I got to try and hook him up with Trevor Parks, maybe an internship, or hopefully he's a future Penguin here in about a year. But Chase was on fire, man. Loves our show, loves listening to it. Hopefully he's listening tonight. And so we appreciate you, Chase, and maybe spread the word about our show to those guys you're in school with. And I know he'll be rooting for the Penguins big time. So a little shout out to Chase. Thanks. We appreciate you. And hopefully we'll see you down the road.
Love that. Love when we get to meet and see our fans and supporters of the Penguins. Dan, you next week, or especially during our bye week, we want to know how some of the Penguin coaches in the high school market. You got to give us an update on how they're doing. But
yeah,
Cyril, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it'll be a good time to do it because they're kind of getting in the league play. But we got a bunch of teams in the area with some Penguin ties and head coaches, and we'll give them some love too.
And one last thing is, Cyril, what is the update on Hudson Middle School football? How's the team doing?
Hey, okay, before I get into Hudson Middle School football, Swicka's FBS pick, okay? He says, give him Wofford with the points against Virginia Tech.
What is the point?
Swicka,
it doesn't matter.
You take the money line there, okay? It's Virginia Tech.
Sal, there was a time. Sal, there was a
world where it could happen.
Yeah, Sal, there was a time when your Hokies, that game wouldn't even be on the board. and your Hokies have fallen that far, so.
It's bad.
Hey man,
honestly,
Hudson,
the YSU coaching staff is a million times better than what's in Blacksburg. But go ahead. How's Hudson?
Hudson, we're 3-2, and we got absolutely dismantled last night.
By who?
By the Stowe Bulldogs.
Ooh, Stowe's legit.
Yeah. So It was a little bit of a rough one. I don't know. We'll get back in the win column. We got Twinsburg and Wadsworth up next.
What is the spread on Twinsburg?
Dude, it's 7th grade football. I don't freaking know. It could be.
We got to post
clock.
it.
It could
Mets
be
wants a money
second
line. Let's go.
Kyle, you just heard Sal ask what the line was on a 7th grade game. See, down in Florida, they actually bet on this shit.
Into a care center for that.
Oh man, too funny. Anyway, any last thoughts before we lock it up?
Nope.
Let's lock it up. Again, you have been listening to Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. The Youngstown State Penguins are at Towson, 6 p.m. this Saturday. You cannot catch us on ESPN Plus. You have to download Flow Sports app. That's FLO Sports app. It's $19.99 a month to be able to watch the Penguins. And again, you have been listening to the Youngstown Penguin Podcast. Please follow us on Instagram. We are anywhere podcasts are available. Please give us a like, a subscribe, and a 5-star review and a comment. It is all very appreciated. But again, I'm your host, Saguaro. That is the Sledge, Kyle Searle, and that is Dan Kopp. And we are the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. And as always, go Penguins.